Chapter 1. The Midnight Call. In the dark hours of the early morning, the city streets slumbered under a dense blanket of fog, while the clock on the wall struck exactly midnight. In the dim light of his smoky office, Detective Augusto Duarte, known on the streets as the Shadow Detective, he was finishing his third glass of cheap whiskey. His tired, shadow-filled eyes reflected the faint lights of the neon sign from the bar across the street. Suddenly, the phone on his desk shattered the sepulchral silence with its sharp and insistent ring. Duarte reached out, his detective instincts already alerting him that this would not be an ordinary phone call. Duarte, he answered, his voice hoarse and laden with an old fatigue. On the other end of the line, a feminine voice, trembling and desperate, began to speak rapidly, almost without breathing. Detective Duarte, please, you need to help me. It's Helena. Helena Montenegro. She disappeared during the gala event. Helena Montenegro. The name was familiar. One of the city's most influential socialites, always present in the social columns of the newspapers. Duarte felt a chill run down his spine. This was not a typical missing person case. There was something darker lurking beneath the surface. Calm down, ma'am. Tell me exactly what happened, said Duarte, trying to soothe the woman and extract crucial information. She explained that Helena had mysteriously disappeared in the midst of the event. One minute, she was smiling and chatting with the guests. The next, she had vanished without a trace. Duarte knew that events like these were a minefield of secrets and intrigues, and he was ready to unearth every one of them. I'm on my way, he replied, hanging up the phone and grabbing his old trench coat. As he left the office, the cold night air enveloped him, bringing with it a foreboding sense of doom. He knew that this night would plunge him even deeper into the abyss of corruption and danger that dominated the city. Upon arriving at the Montenegro mansion, the scene was one of silent chaos. The opulent glow of crystal lights contrasted with the palpable tension in the air. The guests were murmuring among themselves, wide-eyed, searching for answers. Duarte began to scan the environment, every detail, every nervous glance, looking for clues. He knew that Helena's disappearance was not a mere accident. It was the beginning of something much more sinister. Chapter 2. The First Clue. The Montenegro mansion was a spectacle of opulence, a fortress of wealth amidst the city's decay. But that night, the grandeur of the marble columns and crystal chandeliers seemed mere ghosts before the mystery that hung in the air. Augusto Duarte, with his sharp and attentive gaze, walked through the corridors, feeling the tension pulsating in the walls. The gala guests, now clustered in small groups, whispered frantically, casting anxious and suspicious glances at each other. Duarte knew that the truth was hidden somewhere in that luxurious hall, waiting to be uncovered. Entering the library, a less frequented room in the mansion, Duarte found the first intriguing clue: an expensive porcelain vase, shattered into 1,000 pieces on the floor. Crouching, he examined the shards, noticing dark stains that could be blood. Nearby, deep scratches marked the wall, as if someone had fought desperately. Suddenly, a whisper caught his attention. In the dim light of the room, on a mahogany table, a diary lay half open, its yellowed pages whispering secrets. Duarte picked up the diary and began to leaf through it, his eyes widening as he absorbed Helena Montenegro's words. She was investigating something big, something dangerous. The pages were filled with notes about powerful figures in the city, men and women who hid behind masks of respectability. Helena seemed to be getting close to uncovering a network of corruption and crime that could shake the foundations of society. As he read, Duarte heard footsteps approaching. Hiding the diary inside his coat, he turned to face whoever it was. The shadow of a security guard appeared at the door, his suspicious eyes sweeping the room. Who are you? What are you doing here? The man's voice was harsh, laden with authority. I am Detective Duarte, he replied, with the calm of someone used to dealing with dangerous situations. I'm here to find Helena Montenegro. The guard hesitated, but seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Good luck, detective. You'll need it, he said before leaving Duarte alone again with his thoughts and the clues scattered around the room. Duarte knew he was on the right track, but he also knew that each step would take him deeper into a labyrinth of danger and betrayal. He left the library, determined to follow every clue, no matter the cost, to discover what really happened to Helena Montenegro. Chapter 3: Hidden Enemies. The next morning brought a light fog that wrapped the city in a shroud of mystery. Duarte, after a sleepless night, was following the leads revealed in Helena Montenegro's diary. Every name written on the yellowed pages was a key to a door hiding dark secrets. The first name he decided to investigate was Ernesto Ramos, a businessman with a reputation as impeccable as a wolf in sheep's clothing. Duarte knew that Ramos was a dangerous man, with tentacles extending throughout the city's underworld. As he arrived at Ramos's imposing office building, Duarte felt a chill run down his spine. He was approaching the lion's den. Inside the luxuriously decorated office, Ramos greeted him with a cold smile. What can I do for you, detective? Ramos's voice was smooth, but his eyes glinted with a veiled threat. Duarte wasted no time with pleasantries. I'm investigating the disappearance of Helena Montenegro. The last time she was seen was at the gala event. She was investigating powerful figures in this city, including you. Ramos's smile turned into a scowl. This is absurd. I know nothing about her disappearance. And I advise you not to pursue this path, detective. It could be dangerous. Duarte held his gaze steady. Danger is my middle name, Ramos. And I'm willing to take the risk. Ramos stood up abruptly, his face red with anger. Get out of my office, now. As Duarte turned to leave, he heard a menacing whisper. You're digging your own grave, Duarte. The detective knew he had provoked the beast, but also knew he was closer to the truth. As he exited the building, a shadow approached him swiftly. Duarte, with his sharp reflexes, turned just in time to see one of Ramos's goons with a gleaming knife. With a quick movement, Duarte disarmed the man and slammed him against the wall. Tell Ramos the message was received, but I won't stop. The goon looked at him with hatred and fear before fleeing. Duarte knew that the direct confrontation with Ramos had been risky, but also revealing. He needed more evidence to incriminate Ramos and find Helena. Determined, he left the building and moved on to the next lead, knowing that the web of intrigue was only beginning to unravel. Chapter 4: The Unexpected Ally. The rain fell heavily, each drop like an irregular heartbeat in the city's grim setting. Duarte, his coat soaked through, walked the dark streets to an address noted in Helena's diary. A sense of urgency drove him, the fear that every lost second could mean more danger for Helena. The location was a modest cafe, an unlikely refuge for someone like Helena. Duarte entered, the door chimes jingling softly, and his eyes immediately caught a solitary figure in the corner, face partially hidden under a hoodie. As he approached, the figure looked up. It was Lucas, Helena's younger brother, his green eyes shining with determination and worry. "A detective, Duarte?" Lucas asked, his voice filled with anxiety. Duarte nodded and sat at the table. Lucas, Montenegro. You have something to tell me, don't you? Lucas hesitated for a moment, then pulled an envelope from his inner pocket. Helena gave me this the night she disappeared. She said if anything happened to her, I should give it to you. Duarte carefully opened the envelope, revealing a series of documents and a key. The documents detailed shady transactions and names of powerful figures, all linked to Ernesto Ramos. But the key was a mystery. Do you know where this key leads? Duarte asked. Lucas shook his head. Helena only said it was crucial to unravel everything. Suddenly, the cafe door burst open, and 3 men entered, their intentions clearly hostile. Duarte recognized 2 of them as Ramos's thugs. The third, a man with scars on his face, appeared to be the leader. Duarte, Ramos warned you not to get involved, said the scarred man, pulling out a gun. Time seemed to slow down. Duarte pushed Lucas to the floor and flipped the table to create a barrier. The gunshots echoed, shattering the windows and scattering debris everywhere. Duarte, with precision and calm, drew his own revolver and fired back. 2 of the thugs went down, wounded, while the third tried to escape. Lucas, trembling, slowly got up. What do we do now? Duarte, still breathing heavily, looked at the young man. We need to get out of here. We have a key, and we need to find out where it leads. But first, we need to hide and plan our next move. The 2 quickly left the cafe, the rain washing away the blood and debris. Duarte knew he had found an unexpected ally in Lucas. Together, they might have a chance against the dark forces controlling the city. The key was the next clue, and they were determined to follow it, no matter the cost. Chapter 5: The Underworld Revealed. The following night was a game of cat and mouse through the dark underbelly of the city. Duarte and Lucas, with the enigmatic key in hand, followed a lead left in Helena's documents. Their footsteps echoed through the deserted alleys as the dense fog wrapped around each corner, turning the city into a labyrinth of shadows and uncertainties. The key led them to an abandoned warehouse on the city's outskirts, a forgotten place where crime and corruption thrived in the shadows. Duarte felt adrenaline coursing through his veins as he and Lucas slipped into the building through a broken window. Inside, darkness was interrupted only by the beams of their flashlights. The muffled sounds of voices and machines in the distance indicated that this place was far from as abandoned as it seemed. They approached cautiously, each step a calculated risk. Climbing a rusty metal staircase, they reached a room where a clandestine meeting was underway. Duarte recognized Ernesto Ramos among the men, orchestrating the operation. Maps, documents, and stacks of money were spread out on a large table. Lucas pointed to a door at the back, whispering, Helena mentioned a safe in her diary. It must be in there. With silent movements, the 2 approached the door. Duarte used the key, which fit perfectly, and the door opened with a soft click. Inside, they found a small safe. Duarte began working on the combination, while Lucas kept watch. Suddenly, one of the men in the next room noticed something amiss. Who's there? The voice echoed through the room, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Duarte finally managed to open the safe, revealing a series of incriminating documents and a flash drive. He grabbed them quickly and hid them under his coat. Let's get out of here, now, he murmured to Lucas. The 2 began to leave, but were spotted. There they are, shouted one of the goons. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Duarte and Lucas ran through the maze of corridors, closely pursued by armed men. They reached a side exit, where a car chase awaited them. Duarte took the wheel, and Lucas dove into the passenger seat. The tires screeched as the car sped away, bullets ricocheting off the metal. Hold on, shouted Duarte, swerving through the narrow city streets, trying to shake off their pursuers. The tension was at its peak, each turn, each shot, a deadly dance for survival. Finally, after a frantic chase, they managed to lose the cars tailing them. Duarte parked in a safe alley, both of them breathless but unharmed. We have the evidence, Duarte said, looking at Lucas. But now, we need to figure out how to use it to take down Ramos and save Helena. The battle was far from over, but now they had an advantage. With the documents and the flash drive, they were closer to dismantling the network of corruption that threatened the city. Chapter 6: The Unraveled Enigma. Duarte and Lucas found refuge in a small apartment of a trusted friend, a temporary base to organize the evidence they had collected. The place was simple but secure, with reinforced windows and a heavy door that could withstand an attempted break-in. In the center of the room, a table was covered with the documents from the safe and the newly discovered flash drive. Duarte connected the flash drive to the laptop, while Lucas kept watch by the window, nerves on edge. The laptop screen lit up, revealing a series of encrypted files. Duarte began decrypting them, his hands moving quickly over the keyboard. The tension in the room was palpable, every second counted. Finally, the files opened, revealing an avalanche of incriminating information: illegal financial transactions, bribes, lists of accomplices, and details of Ramos's clandestine operations. Duarte knew they had in their hands the key to bringing down Ramos's criminal empire. But before they could breathe a sigh of relief, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the building's hallway. Duarte looked at Lucas, their eyes communicating the imminent danger. They found us, Duarte whispered. We need to get out of here. Before they could move, the door was kicked open, and Ramos's thugs stormed the apartment, guns drawn. Duarte and Lucas dove behind a table, using it as cover as the bullets started flying. Duarte returned fire with precision, while Lucas tried to protect the documents. Amid the chaos, Duarte managed to reach an emergency exit at the back of the apartment. Lucas, this way, he shouted, pulling the young man toward the fire escape. They descended quickly, with the thugs in hot pursuit. Reaching the street, Duarte and Lucas ran through dark alleys, trying to shake off Ramos's men. The chase was relentless, each corner a new threat, each shadow a potential enemy. Finally, they found refuge in an old abandoned garage. Inside the garage, panting and covered in sweat, Duarte and Lucas examined the documents they had managed to save. Among them, they found a crucial piece of evidence: a recording of Ramos discussing plans to kidnap Helena and the locations where she might be held captive. We have enough to take him down, said Duarte, his eyes shining with determination. But we need to act fast. Let's take this to the police and find Helena before it's too late. Adrenaline kept them on their feet as they prepared a plan to expose Ramos and rescue Helena. Every second was precious, and danger lurked around every corner. But Duarte knew they were closer to the truth than ever, and nothing would stop him from unraveling the enigma and bringing Helena back. Chapter 7: The Final Confrontation. The city was shrouded in darkness, the silence of the night broken only by the distant sound of sirens and the rhythmic beat of the rain. Duarte and Lucas knew time was running out. With the documents and the recording in hand, they headed to the hideout where they believed Helena was being held. They arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a place that exuded danger and desolation. Duarte parked the car at a safe distance, the headlights off to avoid attracting attention. They moved quickly through the shadows, each step calculated, every sound amplified by the tension. As they approached the entrance of the warehouse, they saw two armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Duarte signaled for Lucas to stay hidden. With the skill of a veteran, Duarte crept up to one of the guards, disarming him silently. The second guard, alerted by the movement, turned, but before he could react, Duarte immobilized him with a precise blow. Inside the warehouse, the atmosphere was suffocating. The sound of old machinery and the low murmur of voices echoed off the metal walls. Duarte and Lucas advanced, hiding behind crates and piles of scrap metal. At the back of the warehouse, a massive steel door guarded what they sought. They approached the door, but were ambushed by Ramos and his goons, who emerged from the shadows. "A detective, Duarte, what an unpleasant surprise," Ramos said with a cruel smile. Did you really think you could stop me?" Duarte, with unyielding calm, replied, "You made a mistake, Ramos. You underestimated our determination." Ramos laughed, but his amusement was short-lived. In a swift motion, Duarte drew his revolver and began firing. The shootout was intense, bullets ricocheting off the metal walls. Lucas, trembling but resolute, found cover and began firing as well. Amid the chaos, Duarte managed to reach Ramos, engaging him in hand-to-hand combat. Ramos was strong, but Duarte's anger and determination made him unstoppable. With a final blow, Duarte knocked Ramos down, pointing his gun at his chest. "It's over, Ramos," Duarte said, breathless. Ramos, defeated, merely smiled bitterly. "You'll never find Helena," he murmured. Lucas ran to the steel door and, with combined effort, he and Duarte managed to open it. Inside, they found Helena, bound and visibly weak, but alive. Her eyes filled with tears at the sight of her brother and the detective. "You did it," Helena whispered, her voice trembling. Duarte helped free her, feeling immense relief. "Let's get you out of here." With Helena safe, Duarte and Lucas exited the warehouse, leaving Ramos and his goons for the arriving authorities. The case was finally solved, but Duarte knew the city still held many dark secrets waiting to be uncovered. Chapter 8: Helena's Return. The sun began to rise over the city, its first light cutting through the dense early morning fog. Duarte, Lucas, and Helena, now free and safe, returned to the Montenegro mansion. The authorities had taken control of the warehouse, and Ramos was in custody along with his goons. At the mansion, Helena, still weak, was greeted with hugs and tears of relief from her family and friends. Duarte and Lucas, exhausted but relieved, watched closely as doctors attended to her. The atmosphere in the house, previously tense and laden with fear, was now filled with hope and renewal. As Helena rested, Duarte gathered all the documents and evidence they had collected. He knew there was still work to be done. Ramos was imprisoned, but his criminal operations could still have far-reaching consequences in the city. Duarte needed to ensure that the entire network of corruption was dismantled. Lucas, who had shown immense courage throughout the ordeal, approached Duarte. "A detective, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done. You saved my sister and my family." Duarte gave a slight smile, something rare on his usually stern face. "You did your part, Lucas. Without you, none of this would have been possible." Before they could continue, Helena, now more recovered, called them both. "I have something to show you," she said, her voice still weak but determined. She led them to her office, where she revealed a safe hidden behind a bookshelf. Inside, there were more documents and a diary detailing her investigations. "Here is everything I managed to gather about Ramos and his accomplices," Helena explained. "It's enough to bring down their operations for good." Duarte examined the documents, realizing that Helena had truly reached the heart of the corruption network. "This is more than enough," he said, feeling a weight lifted off his shoulders. "We'll take this to the authorities and make sure justice is served." With the evidence in hand, Duarte and Lucas went to the police station, where they handed everything over to the chief. The wheels of justice began to turn quickly, and arrests were soon made. The city was finally beginning to free itself from the dark grip of Ramos and his associates. A few days later, in a discreet ceremony, Duarte was honored for his work, and Lucas was recognized as a hero alongside his sister. The city celebrated, but for Duarte, it was just another case closed. He knew that darkness never completely disappeared, it only hid, waiting for the next move. As he watched the celebration, Duarte felt a sense of satisfaction, but also a constant alertness. New enigmas would always arise, and he would be there, ready to unravel them. The battle against darkness was never ending, but that morning, at least, the light had prevailed.